The massive Zephyrian warship Eternal Vengeance drifted silently through the void, its hull scarred by 1,000 years of battle. On the bridge, Admiral Cuthbert stared at the holographic message that had just arrived. His 4 eyes, usually bright with the fire of war, were now dim with exhaustion. "Sir, is it true?" asked his young aide, tentacles trembling with uncertainty. Cuthbert nodded slowly. "Yes, the High Command has agreed to a ceasefire with the Korath Dominion." The bridge fell silent. For generations, the Zephyrian Empire had fought the Korath across hundreds of star systems. Entire worlds had been reduced to ash. Billions had died. The war had become the only thing either civilization knew. "What are your orders, Admiral?" "Signal all fleet commanders. Withdraw to neutral positions. The war is ... over," the word felt strange on his tongue. Over. After 1,000 years, how could it simply be over? Right. Years away, on the other side of the galaxy, Korath Supreme Commander Vextel received the same message. His red eyes glowed with anger as he read the terms of the ceasefire. The Dominion's black ships, once feared across the galaxy, now limped home to lick their wounds. "Cowards," he muttered. "We could have won." His lieutenant, a young warrior named Zikarin, shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, our worlds are starving. Factory planets can barely produce food, let alone weapons. Perhaps it is time." Vextel wanted to argue, but the numbers did not lie. The Korath Dominion was bleeding resources. Their greatest ships were held. Together with spare parts, their soldiers were tired. The war had consumed everything. "Send the signal," he said finally. "Die. All ships to return to base. No more attacks." And so, after 1,000 years of the most brutal conflict the galaxy had ever seen, silence fell across the stars. The great war machines of both empires slowly turned away from each other, leaving behind graveyards of shattered worlds and broken dreams. Neither the Zephyrians nor the Korath paid attention to a small, unremarkable star system in the outer rim. The system contained only one inhabited world, a blue planet covered in water and clouds. The locals called it Earth, on Earth. Captain Lee Daeho stood on the bridge of humanity's first faster-than-light ship, the Kess Harmony. The vessel was small compared to the great warships of the galaxy, but it represented something historic, humanity's first step into the stars. "Jump sequence initiated," reported Navigation Officer Kim Sora, "entering hyperspace in 3.2.1. Universe twisted around them, and suddenly they were elsewhere. The Harmony emerged from hyperspace into a region of space that should have been empty. Instead, their sensors immediately began screaming warnings. "Captain, I'm reading massive debris fields," Kim Sora said, her voice tight with worry. "These readings ... they're enormous." Lee studied the tactical display. Twisted metal and energy signatures stretched across light years. Broken ships the size of cities drifted like ghost towns in the darkness. Whatever had happened here, it had been terrible analysis? He asked. Chief Science Officer Park Minho worked frantically at his console. "Sir, this appears to be the aftermath of a massive space battle. Multiple battles, actually. The debris patterns suggest continuous fighting over decades, maybe centuries. Any survivors? Not scanning now." "Sir, I'm detecting some active signals. Looks like automated distress beacons. They single quotes, re. They're in languages we don't recognize." Lee felt a chill run down his spine. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was terrifying. They were not alone, but their galactic neighbors had been busy trying to kill each other. "Set course for the nearest signal," he ordered, "but keep weapons ready. We don't know what we're walking into." As the Harmony moved through the debris field, the crew fell silent. They passed the remains of ships that could have housed entire cities, weapons platforms that could have cracked planets. The scale of destruction was beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. "Sir," Kim Sora said quietly, "I'm detecting 2 distinct ship designs in the debris. 2 different civilizations, looks like. A war between 2 species. That's what it is. Looks like and Captain ... Based on the decay patterns, this fighting was recent, maybe days or weeks ago. Lee nodded grimly. Humanity had just taken its first steps into the galaxy, and they had walked into the aftermath of the greatest war in galactic history. Two vast civilizations had fought each other to exhaustion, leaving behind a galaxy scarred by conflict. Send a message to Earth, he ordered. Tell them we're not alone out here, and tell them ... tell them we need to be very careful. The Harmony continued its journey through the graveyard of empires, its small crew, the first humans to witness the price of galactic warfare. Behind them, on their small blue world, humanity prepared to enter a galaxy that had just learned what happened when civilizations forgot how to make peace. None of them knew that this was just the beginning of a story that would end with Earth's missiles blotting out the stars. 6 months had passed since humanity's first contact with the galactic powers. The meeting room on Nexus Station buzzed with tension as Ambassador Park Jin-woo sat across from Zephyrian diplomatic overseer Kethman. The alien's purple skin shifted colors as he spoke, his translator converting the clicks and whistles into human language. Your ships are small, Kethman observed, his tone dripping with condescension. Primitive. We offer protection from the dangers of space. In return, we require mining rights to your outer colonies. Park kept his face neutral, but communications. Officer Cho Min-sik could see the slight tightening around his eyes. The ambassador had been a soldier before becoming a diplomat. He recognized a shakedown when he heard one. Before we discuss any agreements, Park said carefully, I have questions about your recent war. Kethman's tentacles writhed in what the humans had learned was amusement. You wish to hear tales of glorious battle? Of how the mighty Zephyrian Empire crushed our enemies? I want to understand why civilian populations were targeted. Why you destroyed farm worlds? Why refugee ships were considered military targets? The Zephyrian's color shifted to deep purple, a sign of irritation. You speak of war as if it were a game with rules. When great civilizations clash, everything becomes a weapon. Every world, every ship, every life, but surely there were limits. Protections for non-combatants? Kethman's 4 eyes focused on Park with something like pity. You are young as a species, you have never faced real warfare. When you do, you will understand. There is only victory or extinction. Across the station, in a different meeting room, Korath Trade Minister Vextel was having a similar conversation with economic analyst Jang Haijin. The Korath was larger than the Zephyrian, with black scales and red eyes that glowed in the dim light. Your questions about proportional response are naive, Vextel explained patiently. When species fight for survival, mercy is weakness. The Zephyrians understood this. We understood this. You will learn, Jang frowned. But the civilian casualties. Entire populations were wiped out. Children, families, all potential soldiers. All potential threats. Your species thinks too small. You see individuals where we see civilizations. Korath leaned forward, his voice becoming almost gentle. We do not blame you for this weakness. You have been alone on your world, fighting only yourselves. But now you face the galaxy. Now you must choose strong allies or perish. Back on Earth, Defense Minister Yang Tae-soon reviewed the reports from both meetings. He sat in his office deep beneath Seoul, surrounded by screens showing intelligence data from across human space. They don't understand, he told President Na Soo-jin over the secure channel. They think our questions about their conduct make us weak. Na's image flickered on the screen. What do you think, Tae-soon? I think they're the ones who don't understand. They've never fought a war where the enemy could strike anywhere, anytime. They've never had to live with the knowledge that one mistake could end everything. Yang pulled up footage from the war zones the human ships had discovered. Entire star systems reduced to rubble. Worlds that had once held billions now empty and dead. The scale of destruction was beyond anything Earth had ever seen. They fight like children, he continued. Big, powerful children who never learned when to stop. Na nodded slowly. What did we learn from our wars? That total war is suicide. That if you're not willing to live with your enemy, you'd better be prepared to die with them. The president was quiet for a moment. Keep monitoring the situation. And Yang? Start running simulations.
Oh, yeah?
If they mistake, our restraint for weakness, already in progress, Madam President. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the exploration vessel Busan Rising, Captain Kim Taehan studied the latest intelligence reports. His ship was one of dozens now mapping the debris fields left by the Great War. What they found painted a picture of two civilizations that had forgotten how to show mercy. "Sir," reported Science Officer Lee So-young, "we found another dead. World looks like it was a medical colony. Hospitals, research facilities, all targeted." Kim closed his eyes. Survivors? None. The bombardment was thorough. The captain turned to his tactical officer. "Any military value to this world?" "None that I can see, sir. Pure civilian target." Kim made a note in his log. Another world where the aliens had chosen to kill. Everything rather than risk leaving enemies behind was the kind of thinking that had turned a border dispute into a 1,000-year war. "Send the data to Earth," he ordered. "Command needs to see this." As the reports flowed back to Earth, a clearer picture emerged. The galaxy's two greatest powers had fought with the logic of extermination. They had turned war into a tool of genocide, believing that only total victory could bring peace. What they didn't understand was that the humans asking uncomfortable questions had learned different lessons. Earth had fought global wars that nearly destroyed their species. The survivors had learned that unlimited warfare wasn't strength, it was civilizational suicide. The aliens saw humanity's questions as weakness. They didn't realize they were being studied by a species that had mastered the art of total war and chosen to step back from the brink. The galaxy was about to learn the difference between a species that couldn't fight and one that had learned when not to. The colony ship New Seoul had been traveling for 3 months when the attack came. Captain Yu Jaemin was reviewing the landing procedures when the first missiles struck their shields. The bridge shook violently as alarms screamed throughout. "The ship. Shield status," he shouted over the noise. "Down to 60%, replied Chief Engineer Song Myung, her fingers flying over the console. "Ease, sir. These are military-grade weapons. This isn't pirates." Through the view screen, you could see the attacking ships, black holes with the red markings of the Korath Dominion. They moved with deadly precision, firing again and again at the defenseless colony ship. "Emergency broadcast," you ordered. "All frequencies. We are a civilian vessel with families aboard. We're not armed. Repeat, we are not armed." The only response was another volley of missiles. The New Seoul shuddered as its shields finally collapsed. The next impact tore through the hull, venting atmosphere and lives into space, in the cargo bays. Families who had left Earth to build new homes among the stars died in seconds. Children who had dreamed of alien worlds never got the chance to see them. The Kim family from Busan, the Park family from Seoul, the Lees from Daegu. 4,000 souls gone in moments. "Sir, we're venting atmosphere from sections 12 through 18, Song reported, tears streaming down her face. Reading massive casualties, he watched helplessly as his ship died around him. "Emergency beacon, deploy it now." The attacking ships vanished into hyperspace as quickly as they had appeared, leaving the New Seoul broken and bleeding in the void. Of the 6,000 colonists aboard, only 2,000 survived. On the bridge of the Korath destroyer Payne's Edge, Commander Zethrak watched the human ship burn with satisfaction. The ceasefire had lasted 6 months too long. His people were warriors, not diplomats. They needed war to feel alive. "Sir, the evidence has been planted," reported his intelligence officer. "The weapon signatures match Zephyrian military codes. When the humans investigate, they will blame our old enemies." Zethrak nodded. "And then they will seek our protection. The humans are weak, but they have resources. With them on our side, we can restart the war properly." "Sir, we have new orders from High Command," the communications officer announced. "They want us to return to base and await further instructions." "Tell High Command we are pursuing fleeing Zephyrian raiders," Zethrak lead. "We will return when the threat is eliminated." He did not see the human stealth ship that had been following them. The Ghost of Inchin had been tracking Korath movements for weeks, invisible to their sensors. Captain Ru Donghayan had watched the entire attack. Through his ship's advanced surveillance systems, "Sir, should we assist the colony ship?" asked his tactical officer. "Negative. Our orders are to observe and report. But record everything. Command will want to see this." The ghost of Inchen remained hidden as the Korath ships prepared to leave. Only when they began their jump sequence did Ru make his move. "Target their engines," he ordered. "Let them know what happens when you murder civilians." Stealth ship's weapons, designed for precision strikes, tore through the pane's edge. In seconds, the Korath destroyer exploded in a brilliant flash, taking Zethrak and his crew with it. Within hours, the intelligence networks of Earth had swung into action. Director Lim Donghayan sat in his office beneath Seoul, surrounded by screens showing data from across the galaxy. His agents, trained in the schools of espionage that had served humanity for centuries, began unraveling the conspiracy. 15 Korath officers were involved, he reported to the Security Council. "We have their names, their locations, their command structures. The attack was designed to restart the war between their empire and the Zephyrians." President Nasujin listened to the report with growing anger. "They killed our people to start a war. They used our colonists as pawns?" "Yes, Madam President. They assumed we would seek powerful allies for protection. Instead, they have shown us exactly what kind of neighbors we have." Defense Minister Yang Taesoon leaned forward. "Recommendations."
Ow.
Strikes Lim replied without hesitation. "We eliminate the conspirators and leave the rest of their civilization untouched. We show them that we can tell the difference between soldiers and civilians, even when they cannot." The response was swift and terrible in its precision. One by one, the conspirators began to die. Some were killed in their beds on heavily guarded worlds. Others died in the middle of high-security military bases. A few simply vanished, leaving behind only empty uniforms and confused guards. The Korath High Command watched in growing horror as their officers died. The humans had reached across light years to strike with perfect accuracy. No defenses seemed to matter. No hiding place was safe? "How are they doing this?" demanded Supreme Commander Vextel. "Our security is absolute. Our bases are impregnable." "Sir, we believe they have intelligence assets we never detected," replied his aide. "They know everything about our military structure." The Zephyrians were equally shocked. They had expected the humans to blame them for the attack, to seek Korath protection. Instead, the small species had demonstrated a level of focused lethality that neither empire had seen in 1,000 years of warfare. "They killed only the guilty," observed Admiral Kethfer. "Not their families, not their colleagues. Only those who planned the attack." The message was clear. Earth could reach anyone, anywhere, anytime. But they chose to kill only those who deserved to die. It was a level of restraint and precision that confused the galactic powers. They had mistaken mercy for weakness, not understanding that true strength lay in knowing exactly when and how to use force. The galaxy was beginning to learn that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology, but their discipline. The Grand Council chamber on Nexus Station had been built to impress. Massive crystalline walls reached toward a domed ceiling that showed the stars beyond. Today, the leaders of 2 galactic empires sat at the polished table, making decisions that would reshape the galaxy. "They are weak," declared Zephyrian Fleet Admiral Kethfer, his 4 eyes gleaming with confidence. Their response to the colony ship attack proved it. Any real military power would have sought immediate revenge against the entire Korath species. Supreme Commander Vextel of the Korath Dominion nodded his massive head. Agreed. They killed only a handful of our people. True warrior race would have burned our worlds in response. The 2 leaders had been enemies for their entire lives, but now they found common ground in their contempt for humanity. The small species that asked too many questions and showed too much mercy. "Their ships are tiny," continued Kethfer. "Their weapons are primitive. They have no understanding of real warfare." "Which makes them perfect," Vexel replied. "We propose joint administration of human space. Our combined fleets will protect them from the dangers of the galaxy. And in return, They will provide resources, labor, and grateful submission. A client species, nothing more. Neither leader understood that humanity's restraint was not weakness but discipline. While they had spent centuries perfecting massive fleet battles, humans had learned to fight wars where the enemy could strike anywhere without warning. The protection zones began appearing around human colonies within weeks. Zephyrian and Koroth patrol ships demanded tribute from human traders. Cargo vessels were stopped and searched. Mining rights were claimed by alien corporations, backed by military force. On the human colony of New Harmony, Governor Choi Hyun-woo watched alien ships establish orbital platforms above his world. The platforms bristled with weapons, all aimed downward at the human settlements. "Sir, they're demanding a meeting," reported his aide, Lieutenant Park Suri. "They want to discuss new taxation policies." Choi's jaw tightened. "Taxation? For what?" "Protection. Services, they call it. 20% of all agricultural output, plus mining rights to the northern continent." The governor turned to look out his window at the peaceful farms below. Families had worked for years to build this colony. They had cleared the land, planted crops, built schools for their children. Now aliens wanted to take it all away. "Send a message to Earth," he ordered. "Tell them what's happening here." Similar reports flooded in from across human space. The galactic powers were treating humanity like a conquered territory. Trade routes were regulated by alien authorities. Human ships required permits to travel. Between their own worlds, protests were dismissed as the complaints of an inferior species. Fleet Admiral Kwan Hook J monitored the situation from his command center deep beneath. Seoul, the walls around him showed holographic displays of every human system, each one now crawling with alien ships. "They're positioning for total occupation," he reported to Defense Minister Yang Tae-zoon. "Every major colony has alien patrols. They're treating us like a client state." Yang studied the tactical display. "Let them," he said quietly.
"Every
"Ship they move into our space is a target we don't have to hunt for." "Sir, they think we're weak because we haven't started shooting. They don't understand that we've been preparing for this moment since first contact." The breaking point came when a massive joint fleet appeared over New Terra, humanity's largest colony world. The fleet contained over 2,000 ships from both empires. Their weapons trained on the planet below. Admiral Kethfer's voice echoed across every communication channel, by joint declaration of the Zephyrian Empire and Korath Dominion. The human colony of New Terra is now under galactic peacekeeping protection. All military forces will stand down. All government officials will report for reassignment. Compliance is mandatory. On New Terra, Colonial Administrator Kim Jun-ho watched the alien fleet blot out the stars. His world held 12 million people, all of them now hostages to alien ambition. "Sir, they're demanding surrender," reported his military advisor. "They want our defense platforms shut down and our ships grounded." Kim looked at the families in the streets below, people who had trusted him to keep them safe. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them we're not surrendering." President Na Soo-jin received the report in her office in Seoul. Around her, the emergency council gathered as the situation developed. The aliens had finally overplayed their hand. "They want us to bow," she said quietly. "To accept that we're nothing more than their property." "Madam President," said Defense Minister Yang, "we have assets in position. We can respond." Na turned to the window, looking out at the city where her people lived and worked. They had built a civilization based on hope and cooperation. Now they faced enemies who understood only force. "Send a message to both empires," she ordered. "Tell them they have 72 hours to withdraw from New Terra." The aliens received the message with laughter. Earth had perhaps 300 ships scattered across dozens of systems. The joint fleet numbered in the thousands, with weapons that could crack planets. What could one small world do against the combined might of two galactic empires? "Supreme." Commander Vextel shared the human ultimatum with his officers. "They demand we withdraw? They in what army?" Admiral Kethfer was equally amused. "Perhaps we should show them what happens when inferior species make demands of their betters." Neither leader realized they were about to face an enemy that had spent centuries learning how to fight wars of survival. The galaxy was about to discover the difference between a species that couldn't fight and one that had simply chosen not to. At exactly 6 in the morning, Earth Standard Time, Admiral Beak Songho stood in the command center beneath and gave the order that would change galactic history forever. All stations, this is Prometheus Command. Execute Operation Starfall. Across 47 star systems, hidden launch sites that had been built in secret over the past year suddenly came to life. What emerged from underground bunkers and asteroid bases was not what the galaxy expected from humanity. These were not the crude missiles the aliens had dismissed, but weapons that represented the pinnacle of human engineering. Lieutenant Commander the Gin monitored the first wave from her station aboard the command. Ship engines pried. The tactical display showed thousands of contacts accelerating away from launch points, across human space. "Sir, all missiles are running hot and true," she reported. "Fusion drives are performing within normal parameters. Estimated time to target, 14 hours. Each weapon was a marvel of human technology. Relativistic kinetic impactors guided by artificial intelligence systems that could adapt to any countermeasure, fusion drives that allowed continuous acceleration for months, armor that could withstand anything the galaxy could throw at them. But it was not just their technology that made them terrifying. It was their targets. The missiles did not head for random military installations. Every major fleet concentration, orbital platform, and command center belonging to both empires had been marked for simultaneous destruction. Human intelligence networks had spent months mapping every important target in Zephyrian and Korath space on the Zephyrian homeworld. Admiral Kethfer was reviewing occupation plans when his sensors began screaming warnings. His aide rushed to his side, tentacles quivering with fear. "Sir, we're detecting massive incoming projectiles. Speed is... This cannot be correct." Kethfer looked at the display and felt his blood turn cold. The human missiles were moving at a significant fraction of light speed, their trajectories calculated with impossible precision. "How many?" he whispered. "Approximately 12,000 inbound projectiles, sir. They're targeting everything. Fleet bases, orbital platforms, command centers. Sir, they're going to hit us all at once." The Admiral's four eyes widened in disbelief. "Impossible. Humans don't have that kind of technology." "Impact in 6 minutes, sir." From his flagship above the Korath homeworld, Supreme Commander Vextel watched similar readings with growing horror. The humans had not launched a few desperate missiles. They had unleashed a coordinated barrage that covered both empires simultaneously. "Sir, they're targeting our entire military infrastructure," reported his tactical officer. Every important installation in Dominion space." Vextel's red eyes blazed with rage and fear. "All ships, maximum defensive fire. Shoot them down." But the human weapons were designed by a species that had learned to fight enemies capable of global destruction. They twisted and weaved through defensive fire, their AI systems learning from each near miss. When one missile was destroyed, 2 more adjusted their approach. The first impacts came at 2,000 hours, exactly as planned. From the surface of dozens of worlds, the human missiles looked like new stars suddenly blazing across the sky. Then the stars went dark as the weapons found their targets. Chief Tactical Officer Roos Syochtman tracked the engagement from Earth's primary command center. Wall displays showed the systematic destruction of 2 galactic empires in real time. First Fleet has been eliminated. Korath Home Defense Forces gone. We're showing 97% target elimination across both empires. The scale of destruction was breathtaking. What had taken the aliens 1,000 years to build was erased in 18 hours. Massive space stations that had housed millions were reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Fleets that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries simply ceased to exist. But the most shocking thing was what the humans did not target. Civilian worlds remained untouched. Hospitals, schools, and farms were left alone. The weapons that could have cracked planets were aimed only at military targets. On the Zephyrian homeworld, Admiral Kethfer sat in his ruined command center, watching the last of his fleet die in orbital fire. His aide approached carefully. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies." The message was simple and delivered in the calm voice of President Na Sujin. "The occupation of human space ends now. All military forces will withdraw to your home systems immediately. Any further acts of aggression will result in the complete elimination of your military capabilities." Kethfer laughed bitterly. Complete elimination? What do they think they just did? Fleet Admiral Quan Hook J stood on the bridge of his flagship as it emerged from hyperspace above New Terra. Around him, the joint alien fleet that had threatened his people drifted as lifeless hulks. The human colony world below was safe. "Sir, we're receiving surrender broadcasts from both empires," reported his communications officer. "Acknowledge them," Quan replied, "and signal the colony. They're free." The war that had threatened to enslave humanity was over before it truly began. The galaxy's two greatest powers had been reduced to isolated planetary populations. The military might scattered across the void. President Nasujin's final broadcast reached every inhabited world in the galaxy. The old war is over. The new peace begins now. Earth stands ready to ensure it lasts. The aliens finally understood what humanity had been trying to tell them. Their 1,000-year conflict had been nothing compared to what happened when humans decided that peace was no longer possible. The species they had dismissed as weak had demonstrated that the greatest strength was knowing when not to fight, and the deadliest weapon was the will to fight when necessary. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity. Again,